My brother-in-law crossed the line. While my husband is deployed, my husband, 20M, and I, 27F, have been married for a little over a year now. He is currently deployed overseas with the military, and we recently found out right before he left that I am expecting our first child. It was bittersweet timing, but he was overjoyed, and so was I. Last week, I shared the news with our families, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. Everyone was excited, especially his younger brother, 25N, who has always been a bit too friendly, but nothing I could not chalk up to personality. That changed this morning. I woke up to a message from him saying he understands how emotionally draining pregnancy can be, and that sometimes intimacy becomes rare or non-existent. He then said blatantly that he is available if I need comfort, emotionally or physically, while my husband is away. He even made a comment about how no one has to know. I am furious, disturbed, and honestly at a loss. I have zero interest in anyone except my husband, who is the love of my life. But now I am stuck wondering how to handle this without tearing a hole in their family. My husband and his brother are extremely close. They grew up together through some tough times and have always leaned on each other. His brother was even the best man at our wedding. My husband would be heartbroken and enraged if he found out what was said. But at the same time, this is a massive betrayal. His brother is not just disrespecting our marriage, he is undermining my husband's role as a father and partner during a time when we are supposed to be building our future. I keep thinking, do I tell my husband now, while he is deployed and can't really do anything except stew in anger from afar? Or do I wait until he is home, knowing that delaying might look like I was hiding it? If I don't say anything at all, his brother stays in his life like nothing happened, and that makes my skin crawl. What if he tries this again, or with someone else? What if he has done it before? My loyalty is to my husband and our baby. But no matter what I choose, someone is going to be deeply hurt. There is no clean way out of this. I just want to do what is right for my marriage, my child, and myself. How do I expose a betrayal that could wreck a lifelong bond without causing unnecessary damage? It started like any other day. I woke up early, the soft morning light filtering through the curtains. The house was quiet, except for the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen and the distant chirping of birds. I had a strange mixture of excitement and nervousness swirling inside me these days. Pregnancy was a new chapter, filled with hope but also a lot of unknowns. I was already feeling the subtle changes in my body, the morning sickness, the constant tiredness, and the emotional waves that came crashing without warning. My husband had been my rock through it all, calling me every night from halfway around the world, his voice full of warmth and love, despite the fatigue I knew he must be feeling. His younger brother, Jake, had always been part of our lives. Growing up, they were inseparable, two boys weathering the storms of childhood together. Their bond was forged through shared struggles, a difficult neighborhood, the loss of their father when they were young, and the constant challenges their mother faced as a single parent. Jake was the younger sibling but carried himself with a boldness that sometimes bordered on reckless. Still, he was family, and I tried my best to be kind and understanding. But over time, I noticed Jake's attention had shifted in ways that made me uncomfortable. He was always a little too present, showing up unexpectedly, texting late at night, making jokes that felt off. I had shrugged it off, telling myself I was overthinking. After all, people can be quirky in their own ways. This morning, however, shattered that fragile calm. The message on my phone glowed from Jake's name, a message I never expected to receive. He wrote, "I know pregnancy can be really tough emotionally. I just want you to know I am here if you ever need someone to talk to or even just some comfort. No one has to know. You're not alone while he is gone." The words cut through me like a knife. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding in confusion and anger. He was offering me physical comfort. The thought made my stomach churn. I wanted to scream, to block his number, to forget this ever happened. But I also felt trapped. I did not want to cause a family disaster, but I could not pretend this was normal or acceptable. Over the years, I had seen my husband put his family above all else, including himself. Their closeness was almost sacred. To betray that, especially now, felt like the worst kind of treason. I sat with the message, my mind racing through every possible reaction. Should I tell my husband immediately? But he was thousands of miles away, serving our country, and there was nothing he could do except worry. Or should I confront Jake first, to tell him that what he said was unacceptable and must never happen again? What if that only made things worse? I was so tired, so overwhelmed. I thought about the future, about the baby growing inside me and the kind of family I wanted to build. Trust and honesty were the foundation, and this betrayal threatened to shatter it all. My heart ached not only for my husband, but also for myself. I needed strength I was not sure I had. That day passed in a blur. I tried to focus on the little things, setting up the nursery, cooking healthy meals, writing emails to my husband. But Jake's message haunted me. I deleted it and blocked him, hoping it would be enough. But deep down, I knew it was not. The next day, I reached out to my closest friend, Sarah, who had always been a source of calm in my life. I told her everything, holding back nothing. She listened without judgment and reminded me that I was not alone. She said, "You have every right to feel safe and respected. Your husband would want you to protect yourself and your marriage." Her words gave me a small flicker of hope. As the days went by, I realized I needed a plan. This could not be buried. I had to figure out how to keep my family together without letting the betrayal fester. I started keeping a journal, writing down everything I felt and thought. It helped me to clear my head. But the question remained, when and how would I tell my husband? How would I protect him from this hurt while standing up for myself? Every night I prayed for guidance and strength, hoping that somehow the right path would become clear. The days after receiving that disturbing message from Jake felt like walking through a thick fog. I was caught between my loyalty to my husband and the shock of his brother's betrayal. Every time my phone lit up with a message, I tensed, afraid it might be Jake again. I wished I could rewind time to before I saw those words, but there was no going back. My husband, Chris, had always been the steady anchor in my life. Even with the distance between us now, his presence was strong through our nightly calls. We shared our dreams, talked about the baby, and planned the future. I could almost see the way his eyes lit up when he spoke about holding our child for the first time. He was so excited and full of hope despite the hardships of deployment. I did not want to burden him with my worries. He was already carrying so much. The military life was not easy, and the stress of being away from home was heavy. I feared that telling him about Jake's message now would only add to his pain and make him feel powerless. Yet, the secret ate at me. How could I keep something like this from him? It felt like a betrayal of its own. I found myself walking a fine line, trying to protect Chris while protecting myself. I talked with Sarah often, using her as my sounding board. She encouraged me to stand up for myself and make clear boundaries. With Jake. "You deserve respect," she reminded me, "and no one has the right to cross that line." One afternoon, I decided to face the situation head-on. I sat at the kitchen table with my phone, my hands trembling. I typed out a message to Jake, telling him firmly that his words were unacceptable, that I was committed to Chris, and that I expected him to respect our marriage. I told him to never contact me like that again. After sending the message, I felt a weight lift from my chest. It was not a solution, but it was a start. For a few days, Jake did not respond. I hoped that silence meant he understood. But then, one evening, I received another message. It was short and cold. Whatever. I stared at the screen in disbelief. How could someone who was supposed to be family be so disrespectful? The anger I had tried to push down bubbled back up stronger than ever. At this point, I knew I had to consider what to do next. Should I tell Chris? What if Jake tried to speak to me again? Could I trust him around my baby? The questions raced through my mind without end. One night, unable to sleep, I pulled out an old photo album. I flipped through pictures of Chris and Jake growing up. Boys laughing, fishing by the lake, family holidays. Their bond had always seemed unbreakable. I remembered the day of our wedding when Jake stood proudly as the best man, promising to look out for us both. It hurt deeply to think that someone so close could betray that trust. I also thought about Chris's mom, who had always welcomed me warmly into the family. How would she react if she knew what was happening? Would she believe me? Would this tear the family apart? All of these worries pressed heavily on me, making the days longer and my heart heavier. Despite the turmoil, I tried to find comfort in small routines. I kept busy preparing for the baby, reading parenting books, and going for walks in the fresh air. The quiet moments helped me breathe. One afternoon, while I was at the grocery store, I ran into Chris's mother. We smiled and chatted briefly about the pregnancy and how much Chris missed home. She mentioned how close the brothers were and how proud she was of both of them. Her kindness reminded me that families can be complicated, but love often holds them together. That evening, I wrote a long letter to Chris. I poured out everything, the excitement of the pregnancy, the challenges of being apart, and the pain caused by Jake's message. I told him I loved him with all my heart, and that I was committed to our life together. I explained why I had not told him sooner, hoping he would understand. I sent the letter with our next video call, hoping it would give him some comfort and let him know the truth when the time was right. The waiting felt endless. Meanwhile, Jake's behavior remained unpredictable. Sometimes he would ignore me completely. Other times, I would find vague comments on social media that seemed to hint at frustration or anger. I kept my distance, not replying and refusing to engage. I realized that protecting my peace was just as important as protecting my marriage. One day, a message came from Chris's mother. She had heard from Jake that I was upset and wanted to check on me. I was surprised but grateful. I told her that I was fine and that I appreciated her concern. We agreed to keep the lines of communication open, and I felt a small sense of relief that someone else in the family cared about my well-being. Still, the hardest part was knowing that Chris was so far away, unable to hold my hand or shield me from the storm. I prayed every night for strength. For all of us, for Chris to stay safe, for Jake to understand his mistakes, and for me to find the courage to face whatever came next. Through the pain and uncertainty, I held tightly to one truth. I was not alone. I had my husband, even if, miles apart, I had our baby growing inside me, and I had hope that love and honesty would guide us through the darkness. As the weeks passed, my pregnancy grew stronger, and so did my resolve. Each day I felt the little flutter of life inside me, a constant reminder of the new chapter that was unfolding. This baby was the symbol of our love, the future we were building despite the distance and hardships. But the shadow of Jake's betrayal still loomed over me, like a storm cloud threatening to break. I thought about my husband, Chris, and the deep bond he shared with his brother. Their childhood was full of challenges, growing up without their father, facing financial struggles, and relying on each other for strength. Jake had always been the wild one, the rebellious younger brother, but Chris was the steady protector. It was a relationship built on years of shared pain and trust. And now, that trust felt fragile, almost broken. One afternoon, I decided to reach out to Jake's mother, Chris and Jake's mom, hoping she might understand and help. I called her carefully, choosing my words to avoid unnecessary drama. I told her I was struggling with Jake's recent behavior and needed support. She listened quietly, her voice gentle but firm. I always hoped they would stick together, she said softly. But sometimes people make mistakes. You are doing the right thing by standing up for your marriage. Her kindness gave me a little comfort, but also a deeper sense of sadness. Families are complicated. Love and loyalty can sometimes be tangled with pain and betrayal. Later that week, Jake sent me another message. This time it was different, cold, distant, almost like he was trying to act like nothing had happened. He wrote, "I'm sorry if I made you uncomfortable. That wasn't my intention. I stared at the screen, unsure if I could trust those words. Was it genuine remorse or just an attempt to smooth things over? I knew actions spoke louder than words, so I chose not to reply. My heart was heavy with worry. How could I protect my marriage, my child, and myself when the threat felt so close? The thought of Jake near my baby, or even near me, made me feel unsafe. But I also understood that people can change, and sometimes forgiveness is part of healing. Yet, forgiveness did not mean forgetting or ignoring the past. It meant setting boundaries. I began making plans to limit my contact with Jake. I blocked him on social media and avoided family gatherings where he might be present. I told myself this was necessary, even if it hurt others. One day, during a video call with Chris, I could see the exhaustion in his eyes. He looked older than his years, worn down by the weight of his duty. I longed to hold him close, to tell him everything and hear his voice telling me it would be okay. Instead, I carefully spoke about the baby, our plans for the future, and how much I missed him. I left out the parts about Jake not wanting to cause him more pain. But the silence afterward in the call spoke volumes. I knew he sensed something was wrong. That night, I wrote in my journal, pouring out my fears, hopes, and frustrations. I reminded myself that this was temporary, that Chris would come home and we would face whatever challenges together. In the meantime, I leaned on the support of close friends and family who knew the full story. Sarah was always there, offering comfort and advice. Her words were a lifeline when the nights felt lonely. As my due date drew closer, the tension between loyalty and betrayal grew. I wanted to protect Chris's relationship with his brother, but I could not ignore the damage it caused. The weight of the secret became heavier each day. One evening, I received a message from Jake again. This time it was desperate and pleading. He wrote, "Please don't push me away. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you or Chris. I miss the way things were." My heart ached with sadness and confusion. I wanted to believe people could change, but I also knew that trust, once broken, was hard to rebuild. I sat quietly for a long time, thinking about the man Jake was, and the man I hoped he could become. I thought about Chris and how much this would hurt him. I thought about the baby and the kind of family I wanted to create, one built on love, respect, and honesty. I realized then that the path forward would not be easy. It would require courage to confront the truth and strength to protect what mattered most. So I decided it was time. Time to tell Chris everything. Time to stop hiding and start healing. I composed a message, honest and open, sharing every detail and feeling. I told him about the message from Jake, the betrayal, the struggle to keep it a secret, and my commitment to him and our baby. I pressed send with trembling hands, not knowing what to expect. The hours that followed felt endless. I stared at my phone, waiting for a response. When it finally came, it was simple but full of love and pain. "Thank you for telling me. I love you. We will get through this. Together." Those words gave me hope. Even though the road ahead was uncertain, I knew that with honesty and love, we could face anything. After I told Chris everything, I felt a mixture of relief and fear. The secret was out, but now the real challenge began. How would we move forward as a family with this betrayal hanging between us? Chris was quiet at first during our calls. I could hear the weight of his thoughts in his voice. I knew it hurt him deeply, not just because of what Jake had done to me, but because it was his brother. A part of him felt torn between anger and sadness. We talked often, carefully and honestly. Chris told me he wished he could be home to protect us and make things right. He said he trusted me completely and believed in our love, but he was also hurt by the betrayal from someone so close. Together, we made a plan. First, Chris wanted me to focus on my health and the baby's well-being. He reminded me that our child was the most important thing and that nothing should come between us. He told me to surround myself with supportive people and to keep me safe. Second, we agreed that I would keep my distance from Jake. The boundaries were clear. No contact, no visits, no private conversations. If Jake wanted to be part of our lives, again, he would need to earn back that trust over time, and in the right way. Finally, Chris promised that once he returned from deployment, we would face the situation together. We would talk to Jake as a family and decide how to heal the broken trust. That gave me hope. Knowing that Chris and I were united in this made me stronger. The days until Chris's return were long. I threw myself into preparing for the babies. Arrival, painting the nursery soft yellow, organizing tiny clothes and blankets, and reading every parenting book I could find. These moments gave me peace and joy, balancing the heavy emotions that sometimes flooded in. Friends and family rallied around me, offering help and kindness. Sarah was a constant companion, visiting often, listening patiently, and reminding me that I was not alone. Her friendship was a bright light in the darkness. One afternoon, I had a call from Chris's mother. She spoke gently, expressing her sadness for what had happened and her hope that the family could heal. She promised to support me and Chris and to talk with Jake about his behavior. Her words comforted me. It was clear that not everyone in the family condoned what Jake had done. Finally, the day came when Chris returned home. I stood at the airport, clutching the baby blanket I had knitted, my heart pounding with nervousness and excitement. When he walked through the gate, tired but smiling, I felt a wave of love and relief wash over me. We embraced tightly, holding on to each other like we never wanted to let go. In the weeks that followed, we faced the hard conversations. Chris met with Jake, and they talked honestly about the pain and betrayal. It was difficult and emotional for everyone. Jake apologized sincerely and promised to change. He understood that regaining trust would take time and effort. Chris and I worked together to rebuild our marriage, focusing on communication, honesty, and mutual respect. The baby arrived healthy and strong, bringing even more joy and love into our lives. Looking back, I realized that life is not always perfect or easy. Sometimes those we trust most make mistakes that hurt deeply, but with love, courage, and forgiveness, it is possible to heal and grow stronger. I am grateful for my husband, our child, and the family we continue to build. A family where respect and honesty are the foundation, no matter the challenges.